On today's episode of the Locked On Texan podcast, why is it important for the Houston Texans to focus on running the ball and doing it well? And also, if you want insight on who the Texans will draft, just keep a keen eye on their top 30 visits.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation! Bulls on parade. I am your credentialed media member, John Hickman. Thank you for making the Locked On Texans podcast the part of your first listen of the day. We really appreciate it. Welcome into the show. No Big Sarge today. It's just me holding it down. On today's show, we'll be looking at the YouTube comments. Without Big Sarge, I want to hear from you guys. You've been having some good things to say. And also, we'll take a look at the top 30 visits for the Houston Texans, who they brought in, and what does that mean for the culture that they're building here in Houston and for the draft. Ultimately, like everything else, the culture is fine. The franchise is in a good place, but the draft is why they're doing it, of course. But we open up today's show looking at why the Houston Texans should focus on running the ball and the ability to do it well without having to rely on the explosive runs, which is what saved Houston last year. Joe Mixon, I think, was phenomenal last year. There was plenty of times where if you go back and watch some of the tape, I'm seeing Joe Mixon get hit in the backfield, and he's still able to pick up 4 to 5 yards, right? He's still able to close out games for the Houston Texans when all else failed, right? Especially when you look at when Nico Collins went down. And so for Houston, I think focusing on the run is important simply because it allows for the offense to reset a little bit. And when I say reset, I think we have to look at CJ Stroud last year and say a couple of things. Number one, for me, I feel like Bobby Sloyd fit him in the system. And I don't think he's a system quarterback. I think he can do it all. And because of that system, when the system failed, Bobby was unable to break away from that. And quarterbacking failed. And playmaking failed because all else failed, right? And unfortunately, again, Joe Mixon is just Joe Mixon. He's that good. But helping CJ Stroud reset, I think, is important when you look at focusing on running the ball, especially getting him into a space early on in training camp with OTAs where some of the pressure is off of him. That's number one. And it helps simplify things for the offensive line. And again, too many times last season, especially when the explosive runs were not there, the offense was very much CJ and Nico, please save us. And at the time of the injury, Nico Collins accounted for nearly 40% of the offensive yards. Losing him against the Bills was a major dynamic shift for the offense. The offense lacked rhythm. The offense lacked timing because nobody else, up until that point, Stephon Diggs was getting involved. I remember being in the locker room and I asked Tank Dell about his opportunities now that Nico Collins is down. Does he feel like his role has changed, right? And he said, no, I don't think my role has changed at all. And that speaks to the level of Bobby not making those adjustments, right? And forcing a triangle into a square hole. And that was one of the things that I initially thought, oh, this is bad. This is not going to end well if you're not getting one of your best playmakers involved, right? So you look at that, you look at resetting the offense for CJ, making things a little bit easier for him. And more importantly, it gives control back to the offense when you are able to have a dominant run game, right? I think we saw a lot of CJ. We saw him have a lot on his plate last year, and that came with the expectation that he can save the offense when all else fails. And last year in training camp, here's a clip from Bobby Sloyd talking about kind of making things a little bit difficult for CJ and why he thought that was a good thing, but kind of neglecting the fact that this is still a second-year quarterback. This is still a second-year quarterback still trying to figure out the NFL. The NFL is figuring him out, and when you don't have an offensive line up front, to run effectively, to not put your offense in second and long, third and long situations, how that's going to eventually get to him. And for Bobby, he thought it was a good thing to add those things on his plate, neglecting everything else that was going on around him.
Yeah, I think he's always been all in on it. You know, he understands how valuable that is as a quarterback to just be able to stay on the field, get to third and manageables. And that's really what it's about. You know, it's my job to get number one as open as possible all the time. But, you know, not always going to do that. And when I'm wrong, how right can you make me? Are we wrong like, man, I just called a play and we lost 4 yards? Or can I call a play and be wrong and we gained 6? You know, and that started towards the end of camp. That happened a lot. You know, he really is bought into staying on rhythm, getting the ball out on time, and you know, really getting it to our playmakers' hands as often as possible. And that's not easy to do. Like, you have to be very deliberate in how you approach every day to go put that into action. And it definitely has grown.
It definitely did not grow. It definitely did not grow. I will say that I think that at times earlier in the year, especially when Nico Collins was out there, I think CJ Stroud did handle the pressure. But again, the elimination due to injury of Nico put more pressure on his plate, and the offensive line wasn't able to run. So now when you hear Houston and Nick Haley coming in and Cole Popovich get promoted and DeMeco Ryans continue to echo, we want to run the ball, it's not necessarily to take the ball out of CJ Stroud's hands. I think it allows for the offense to do, listen, the best version of CJ Stroud last year, one of the best versions, play action, right? And you look at Matthew Stafford and what he was able to do, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, if not a first ballot. You look at what he was able to do last year as a play action quarterback, and Matthew Stafford, over 1,500 yards. He was ranked third in the NFL, 9 yards per play, 10 TDs, 0 interceptions on play action passes. And he was only pressured on 27% of those dropbacks, which was the 10th lowest in the NFL among qualified quarterbacks. Right? And so that is where I look at the advantage for Houston is when they are able to run the ball well. The play action pass just opens up the playbook. And you have a quarterback that when the rhythm is there, when the timing is there, when the pressure is a little bit more controlled, you have a precision quarterback, a precise quarterback who can get the ball out of his hands quickly and find weapons. Now, whether it be downfield or intermediate, I think that's a strength in CJ Stroud's game that the Houston Texans absolutely need to lean on. But when that wasn't there, when the play action opportunities was not there, and when the offensive line wasn't good, and they were not able to, when they were not able to establish the run and do it effectively, right? You look at those games where there was no Joe Mixon, or some of those second halves where defenses were able to kind of control it, and they put that pressure on CJ Stroud, and he had to save the offense. That led to happy feet from the quarterback play. That led to missing layup passes. That led to passes selling from a physical standpoint and key areas of growth to take control of a dysfunctional offense from a mental standpoint. So everything was kind of discombobulated last year. And when things sped up because of the pressure, being in bad downs to distant positions without Nico, again, the offense just wasn't working. And I think the focus will be, especially when we look at Cam Robinson coming in, Trent Brown coming in, no Kenyon Green, trading for Larry Tunsil, resetting that offensive line, bringing in 2 new guards. They still have Patterson. They still got Scruggs here. They still got Blake Fisher. When you look at how Houston is going about rebuilding this offensive line, and we're going to continue this conversation a little bit in the second segment, when you look at some of the top 30 visits, I absolutely believe one of the first 2 picks for Houston will be an offensive lineman. When you look at all of these things, I think Houston wants to get back to simple football. And I think that's okay, right? Establishing a good run game doesn't have to survive on explosive plays, but it puts the power and control back in the hands of CJ Stroud. Once that playbook opens up, and once the offense can play with the tempo and rhythm that CJ asked for all year last year, you're looking at a different offense. I think you're looking at a different quarterback. I think you're going to look at a different quarterback from a physical standpoint. He has the physical tools, right? And also from a mental standpoint, because the tempo is there. The game slows down a little bit because you're in control. And that will allow for CJ Stroud to break down and dissect defenses. And then boom, now you got guys involved and you know where the ball is going to go when you need to get the ball out of your hands, because you're not living on 3rd and long. You're not living on 2nd and long. Now those down to distance are a little bit shorter and they're easier for your quarterback to convert. Now when we come back, we got to talk about keeping an eye on the top 30 visits. What does those players coming into Houston say about the future and the draft? The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get a $200, $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel is making it so easy to get in on the action. Whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, FanDuel has it all, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. And so you got to know the Rockets, Jalen Green, Alp, Amon Thompson with the steals. I need y'all to come through. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your 250 prize and bonus bets today. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. It's important to keep an eye on the visits. Right now, the Texans front office is big on culture, so they are placing a big emphasis on player personality. Houston has brought in a lot of wide receivers and offensive linemen coming in for visits. And if you look at the history for the Houston Texans, in 2021, they drafted 5 of the 30 players who visited. Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie. 2022, that was that year. 2023, the Texans used both first-round picks on CJ Stroud and Will Anderson, who visited the franchise on the same weekend with 2 weeks remaining before the draft. So 2024, they drafted 4 pre-draft visitors and signed another as an undrafted free agent, which I think is also something that we need to keep in mind. And those undrafted free agents for Houston could be practice squad players, could be guys to come in and compete, but they also could be a diamond in the rough that maybe just slip down draft boards. And you look at potential, a body that could be added to the wide receiver room and a body that could be a special teamer. They're going to give Frank Ross some guys, right? But let's not skip over what they're going to do for special teams. But when I look at the top 30 visits, we talked about it a little bit on our previous show. We like Josh Connolly here, the Tunsil replacement. Isaiah Bond, a mid-round pickup. Kyle Williams, a fan favorite mid-round pickup. Caleb Johnson, one of my favorite running backs in this draft. Quishon Junkins, Ohio State running back, right, can come in and be your next Joe Mixon as time gets there. Jaden Blue, UT player, dealt with some fumbling issues, but athletically, and especially in terms of speed, what he brings to the game with his speed in open field, open space, catching out of the backfield, being able to run in between the tackles, that matters. Also, the defensive line coach for Houston, former UT guy. Hey, listen, what we need to know about this guy. Houston is really exhausting all of their connections to make sure that guys that come in, whether it be a day one pick, whether Houston looks to trade out of that day one pick, which right now feels like they could do that if they still get an opportunity to get Josh Connolly, but it feels like they are going to focus on those top 100 picks for those guys to either be immediate day one starters or immediate day one contributors. That could be a fourth round, a third round running back. That can be a third round cornerback. That can be a wide receiver too. When we look at a lot of the visits, the players that are coming in on these visits, I think right now for Houston, they are in a position to where luckily they are top heavy. They are top heavy. Luckily, the guys that are in the top heavy spaces, CJ, Will, Daniil, Derek Stingley. I would throw, of course, Nico Collins, but I would throw second-year cornerback Kamari Lassiter into that bunch. Like, those guys are full of talent. Those guys are leaders. Those guys are the quote-unquote stars or stars in the making for this offense or the defense, this team altogether. Offensively, when I look at Houston's potential, it feels like in between 25 and 35, they may view those players that are projected to be available the same, which gives Houston the flexibility to trade out. I think the Matthew Golden deal is done. I mean, like, I not done in terms of they're going to get him. I don't see Houston jeopardizing picks on the back end to fill out this roster or any potential picks for next year to control and contain their leverage to trade up for Matthew Golden. I think he's going to be gone. Emeka Ibuka, right? He had his best season under CJ Stroud a couple of seasons ago, and I believe that was CJ's last year. He could still be in play for Houston. I just wonder whether or not, again, they have in their minds that this is just more value throughout the draft, that this isn't a star draft, that you're not going to find stars at the skill position. So it's more important to find contributors at the skill position. And that gives Houston that flexibility to where other teams, especially other playoff teams that may feel like they got a guy in a Matthew Golden, they got a guy in a Walter Nolan or a Kenneth Grant. Like, Houston could view a few of these defensive tackles that they brought in TJ Sanders. They brought in a few guys. Houston may view a lot of those guys the same. And I think especially on the defensive side of the ball, where players come in and they immediately get better because of the coaching here in Houston. Like, the defensive staff is amazing. Offensively, I think you may need a more polished prospect, which is why Josh Connolly matters. When you shut down Abdul Carter for 0 pressures and 0 sacks, that matters. When you have only 9 pressures in 2 seasons, that matters. Polished products for Houston, when I look at a Kyle Williams, that matters. It matters. And I also look at the last couple of seasons for Houston, and I mentioned this on our previous show, they were not always as healthy as they wanted to be going into any of the voluntary OTAs. And that hurt a little bit. It hurt a couple of seasons ago when you were not able to have, everybody available to establish a new offense. No Kenyon Green. It hurt last season when it got down to training camp and no Titus Howard and no Larry Tunsil. That matters going into year 2 of that system. So now defensively, their guys are set. Like Kamari, Stingley outside, Daniil, Will outside, vets on the inside, Aziz, Harris, Henry. They just signed EJ Speed outside, Bullock, CJ Gardner-Johnson, back deep. Petrie coming back. Offensively, the question marks: tackle, guard, wide receiver 2, tight end, maybe. But that feels like the group of players that may have best chance just to, the best chance just to come in and succeed. Low expectations. The guys are available. The guys are healthy. Brevin Jordan's back healthy. He's running. So you are for Houston. They are looking for polished prospects to fit the culture with a good personality that can come in day one and be impactful players. And when I look at the top 30 visits, again, Josh Connolly screams out. Shamar Turner, how does Houston feel about him? He was a part of that big recruiting class for Texas A&M a couple of years ago. And then also, let's not forget players like Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel. Those are healthy players. Those are players who lit it up at their bowl games, at their combines, lit it up at the Pro Bowl, not the Pro Bowl, the Pro Day. Those are players that presumably, unless something happens now in between the draft, they are more polished. And polished players matter for the Houston Texans right now. They cannot afford to wait. They cannot afford to wait on players to get healthy, and now they got to get back into playing shape. They can't afford it. When you have year 3, DeMeco, year 3, CJ, but this is going to be year 1 for a new offense. Now, for some of the vets, they have no problems making the adjustments. Some of those vets either played in the system or played for the coach before, which gives Houston an advantage, which gives Houston the vets an advantage. But this team is not going to get over the hump with how the offensive line looks right now, with how the wide receiver unit looks right now. They are going to get over the hump with the young talent that they're going to bring in through the draft. And that's why if you're able to go day one, that gives both sides the advantage. When we come back, we're going to look at the YouTube comments. What do you guys have been talking about? I want to hear from you. You've probably heard of Chewy. They really do have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, whether you're shopping for food, treats, and even pet health care. Chewy makes it fast and easy and affordable to take care of your pet. With over 100,000 products from all of your favorite brands, Chewy has everything your pet needs: food, treats, beds, grooming. And it's not just for dogs and cats. They've got supplies for birds, fishes, reptiles, small pets too. Chewy also makes it easy to manage your pet's health with prescriptions, telehealth vet visits, and even in-person vet clinics rolling out nationwide. They got everything for these pets now. Everything. So get in on it right now with Chewy. An auto ship is a game changer. You can set up automatic deliveries for food, treats, and any essentials so you never run out, and you can easily change or cancel at any time. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewy.com and clicking the link in the description. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping by clicking the link in the description. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. The Houston Texans will meet with Connecticut offensive tackle Chase Lunt. Houston will also meet with Sam Houston State wide receiver F.A. Adaye, who ran a 4.3. So he'll participate in the Texans local pro day. They will meet with Michigan State center and guard Luke Newman and also defensive tackle Talik Williams out of Ohio State. Now to the YouTube comments. My man, Lost Data. I only want to know if Kaylee is going to turn Stroud loose and let him run the offense, or is he going to keep him on the leash? What I think we're going to see, again, as I mentioned it earlier about running the ball effectively, right? I think we're going to see somewhat of a restraint early on, and it won't be a lot. Like, I don't think it's going to be half a season, but I think we're going to see for Kaylee and Stroud, who I think right now is putting in a lot of work. I think Stroud is putting in a lot of work. What I think we're going to see is just refining Stroud a little bit, mechanic-wise, mental-wise, and in terms of attacking the defense from a quarterback standpoint, right? Stroud got hit a lot last year, guys. Like 52 sacks is how many times he was sacked. But Stroud was hit a lot. And I think what we should see from Kaylee is him giving his quarterback a break a little bit, not babying him, not coddling him. No, I'm not saying that. But I do think that for Kaylee and Stroud to work, what didn't work for Bobby and Stroud was the system, and that was it. And when it all failed, we still run with the system. And on top of that, Bobby making CJ Stroud's job a lot harder. I remember in training camp last year, Stroud would go through his progressions, which is great. But at times, my first progression is open, my second progression is open, but I'm still scanning the field to get to 4 and 5. And I think what we saw last year, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, we would see CJ Stroud miss open guys. That hurt the offense last year. It hurt him on early downs, and it hurt him on converting downs. And so I think we're going to see, and this is something Brady used to do all the time, I know where the ball is going. I know where the ball is going. The defense doesn't know. And I'm not going to make my job easier. So I think to answer your question, I think to kick things off, to kick this marriage off, Kaylee is going to make Stroud's job just a little bit easier. Just a little bit easier. And then once he's mastered everything, we'll see CJ Stroud turn up and get back to having fun. Ultimately, right now for Stroud, I think it's very important for him to get back to a place where he's having fun, he's in control, and the rhythm is on timing. We look at my man Backstreet M. Marine. I don't know, Sarge. I agree that we potentially have wide receiver 2 on the roster, but I'm going to say Justin Watson, maybe our guy over Hutch. He's crafty and has the IQ to read those zones to get open and beat man. If Justin Watson is the Houston Texans wide receiver 2 going into this season, they failed you. They failed. And I'm going to say this. It is extremely important to get Nico Collins help on the other side. The last 2 playoff series, last 2 years, they get to the second round of the playoffs, and it's just Nico Collins looking around. Who else is going to step up and help? I'm going to do my part, but outside of that, I need somebody on the other side. And you look at what Nico Collins did this offseason, helping out Houston by restructuring their contract. Houston, I think, is going to take care of him financially in the long run, but I also think they need to take care of him on the field. What makes Cincinnati so dangerous is Chase is on one side, T. Higgins is on the other side. What helps out Minnesota is when Jordan Addison is on fire. That helps him out. What helps out Philly is that any given Sunday, Devontae Smith is your number 1 receiver and maybe one of the best weapons on the field. So we are seeing teams get to a place where they can potentially have 2 number 1s. Do I think there's a number 1 in this draft for Houston by the time that they pick? I'm not sure. And I don't think that they view a lot of these receivers as number 1s, but the best thing that plays in their favor for Houston is we already have a number 1. And if you did not miss those 5 games, who knows what Nico Collins' final numbers look like? We already have an all-pro receiver. We just got to get somebody that can stay healthy, that can hold it down until we get our other playmaker back, Tank Dell, next season, that can also open up opportunities for Nico so he's not shadowed as much, so he's not doubled as much. And can also open up opportunities for guys inside, Kirk, Mechie, or Berrios. So Watson should absolutely not be your number 2 wide receiver. And if that happens, I think Houston is going to be in trouble. My man Jarrell Scott, who I think a few months ago bought his kid a car. So shout out to Jarrell Scott. The Texans have always struggled with having strong offensive line, while other teams may be recognized for lacking quarterbacks, running backs, or strong defenses. The Texans will always be remembered for consistently weak offensive line. That is where Jarrell, I think the 2012, 2011 team was damn good. Probably their best offensive line in history. But I agree. It's never consistent throughout the board. It's been Larry Tunsil and some other guys, right? I think in recent memory, their best offensive line may have been the line that featured George Fant at right tackle. So for Houston, they know this. They know this, and I think that they will work hard to fix it. The best part about this situation is they have a proven coach in Cole Popovich who is not only proven, but he's invested. Cole is invested. He doesn't want to see this line go out like they did last year. Thank you guys for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texan podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, 3, 2, 1. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Until next time, ladies and gents, peace.